Hey guys, my name is Christopher West, and today I will be discussing the graphic novel Fight Club 2. I will tell you that this is probably one of the craziest things I have ever read. I'm not going to tell you much because I don't want to ruin it. I'll give you the basics throughout. But yeah, the artwork is fantastic. It is gorgeous, which leads me to our next topic, which is the creative team. The creative team behind it was Chuck Palahniuk for the story, Cameron Stewart for art, Dave Stewart for colors, Nate Piekos of Blambot did the letters and logo, and then David Mack did the cover and chapter break art. It was published by Dark Horse Books. It was 276 pages long, and instead of it actually being a full-fledged graphic novel, it in fact was a compilation. It was a compilation of the Fight Club 2 comic series that had 10 issues, and then a 11th that was the Free Comic Book Day 2015 story. Now, the acts themselves occur, let's see, Act 1 started on Chapter 1, Act 2 started on Chapter 3, and then with Act 3 starting on Chapter 9. Now, the pages themselves, Act 1 was page 8, Act 2 was page 58, and Act 3 was page 208, and then the additional Fight Club ending Redux was the free comic started on page 264. So with it being separated this way through chapters, it does in fact fit our model, with it being the 25-50-25. So whose story is it? Well, that's a tricky answer, but the easiest way to say it is that it's equal parts Sebastian and Tyler, our two main characters. Now, the goal is the same for both Sebastian and Tyler, which is to get rid of each other. And this is supported with the conflict that occurs in Act 2 and even in the beginning and even at the end. But this is complicated because if you've read the original Fight Club novel or have seen the movie, you would know that Tyler is, in fact, a psychological projection of Sebastian, or the narrator, because he doesn't really have a name in the original one, but now he goes by Sebastian. So with Tyler being a projection of Sebastian and them wanting to get rid of one another, it makes things difficult, which kind of leads into the next few questions, which are, does the story have a solid story arc? Does it have a clear beginning, middle, and end? Is the resolution satisfactory? Do any of the characters have a solid character arc? Is there change in them? Does the story establish and have effective transitions? Do the readers know where and when they are? It also says to discuss McCloud's ideas of transition as it relates to your chosen work. And does the story make use of the page as a mini-comic idea? Now, for all of those, the reason why I bundled them up together is because for me, at least from my understanding of the graphic novel, is that it's a solid yes, yet a resounding no. And the reason for that is that it's not what you would expect from a graphic novel. It is very different. And the easiest way I can put it is that, in my opinion, Chuck Palahniuk created a masterpiece with the Fight Club novel. And that was led to greatness through the release of the movie. And then with the release of the comics for Fight Club 2, he essentially turned the world that he had created on its head and then hit it with a mallet and then taped it back together just to hit it with a hammer. I mean, at the end of the day, it follows the basic guidelines of a solid story arc, but then, like a ball of yarn, it starts to be pulled apart in every direction. To be honest with you, I struggled understanding a lot of what was going on the first time through, because it starts out normal. It starts out like a basic story. But then again, Chuck Palahniuk kind of did that with the original novel as well, is you get this general idea, you see Sebastian and Tyler, you think things are normal, but then bam, something crazy happens. Well, in this instance, the crazy thing is that Chuck Palahniuk actually is appearing in this graphic novel talking to a group of writers that are helping him come up with the story and the ideas and everything. And this happens throughout most of the graphic novel. So it makes things a little confusing because he's essentially talking about the story while also creating it at the same time, and he's using that as a narrative. What's interesting with it going that way, sometimes the characters will even talk to him to figure out what's going on, and it makes things a little confusing. I mean, even towards the end of the novel, he's even talking to fans in the novel. And so that's why, like I said, that a lot of these questions have a yes yet no answer, because at the at the base of the story, it is very well done, but it's almost like he took the formula for a graphic novel. It's like he took the story and then just put it through a blender. And it's like the story arcs are there for not even just the story, but for the characters and things like that. But it's almost like it doesn't matter because it's almost like the whole premise of Fight Club 2 is to almost poke fun at the fans of Fight Club and how crazy people are over the ideologies of Fight Club. You know, I think that's really the easiest way to say it, is that in a way this was almost a fan service, but at the same time it was almost a way for him to make fun of the fans and to show that it's just a story. As far as the story is concerned, and directional flow and the movement of art and everything like that, it was phenomenal. I mean, this has to be one of the prettiest graphic novels I've ever read. I mean, the artwork, not just from the individual pages, but I mean, each beginning of each chapter that was the original, individual comics. Just as a whole, this book is gorgeous. I mean, just the cover alone is one of my favorite parts. And then with each chapter, they have the different artwork. Like there's the first chapter, and the second chapter. I'm not going to show you the whole book because that would take forever. But it's just the artwork is phenomenal. Everything works well. And there was one thing in the beginning that kind of irked me, it bugged me, and that actually was part of the movement of art and layout and the text. And I realized later on that it's fitting that they did it this way. As an example, on page 10, there is a full spread here, and if you notice, there are pills superimposed on top of the artwork. Now, this happens all throughout the comic, all the time, whether it's with pills or other things. Like here, if you notice, a lot of the captions are covered with rose petals. And this just goes on throughout the entirety of the book. And it's an interesting choice because while a lot of the times this artwork that is on top of artwork that is already there, it serves a purpose, and it's like you may get frustrated reading it because a lot of times dialogue will be covered up or characters will be covered up, so you can't see what's behind it, but they do it on purpose, especially with the medication, because with Sebastian taking all this medication, it kind of muddies things the way Sebastian's mind may be. And I think that was a really cool thing that they did. Now, would I recommend this to my classmates? Would I recommend it to my friends? I would, but I wouldn't. If you're a fan of the original Fight Club, be it novel or movie, I would recommend reading it, as it gives an interesting look into what happens after the book and movie, while simultaneously making fun of itself, its readers, and its writers. The reason why I say I would but I wouldn't necessarily read this as a true sequel, because while it does kind of give some sort of ending or continuation, because there's rumors that there's going to be a Fight Club 3, it doesn't truly give you the story that you're looking for, or maybe even wanting, and I think that's the point. But then as far as one of the big reasons why I would is because it's such a unique way to do a graphic novel, and it's something you probably wouldn't see very often, and I think that you should read it just for that, just to see kind of how different it is. As a whole, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. The story was confusing at times, but then, you know, after rereading it and kind of going back through, things start to come together, and you start to understand why things are happening, why Chuck Palahniuk did things the way that he did. And I think that just overall, it was just a cool idea, you know. And there were times, like I said, I got confused. And I mean, the first time I read it, I was so confused. Like I said, I had to reread it. And so I went online and looked up other people's theories, other people's ideas, what they took from it. And that's when I started to really understand. And then, of course, like I said, I reread it again. And it's kind of like a messed up homage to the original story. And I don't know, it was a fun read. And I really, really enjoyed it. And if you wind up reading it, I hope that you enjoy it too. But yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble about Fight Club 2, and I hope that you enjoyed my video. Thank you.